Hey everyone, and welcome. We've all been there. You need a raise or some help on a project or even just a small favor, but you're just frozen by the fear of asking, right? Well, today, we're going to change that. We're going to transform asking from something you dread into a powerful skill you can use to get what you want, both in your career and in life. Seriously, take a second and think about it. Is it that promotion you know you deserve? Is it asking a colleague for help? Maybe it's a more flexible work schedule. And look, whatever just popped into your head, that hesitation, that's what we're going to tackle today, head on. And if you feel that fear, I want you to know, it is completely normal.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? As artist and author Amanda Palmer points out, it's not the actual words, "can you help me," that scare us. It's what we think a no might say about us. But what if we could change our entire relationship with rejection?
All right, so let's dive into this. Before we even think about what to say, we got to tackle the single biggest hurdle, and that's our own mindset. The first step isn't about finding some magic words. It's about completely reframing how you see the entire situation. I know, this sounds completely backwards, right? Actively look for rejection? But confidence expert Dr. Aziz Ghazi-Pora argues this is absolutely the key. See, the more you try to run from hearing no, the bigger and scarier that monster becomes in your mind. The only way to shrink the fear is to turn around and face it.
So just look at the difference here. It's night and day. On one side, when you're always avoiding rejection, you're just stuck. You're trapped in this cycle where the fear just gets bigger and you miss out. But on the other side, when you start seeking rejection, when you treat every no not as some personal failure, but just as data, everything changes. It becomes information. You build resilience, and you start to see that every single ask, no matter what happens, is a chance to grow.
Okay, so once we've started to tame that fear, we can tap into some really powerful psychological principles that make our requests way more effective. And just to be clear, this isn't about being manipulative. It's about understanding how people tick. So this first one comes from the legendary psychologist Robert Cialdini. Here's the deal. We are hardwired to want to be consistent. Once we make a choice or say yes to something, even something small, we feel this internal pressure to act in a way that lines up with that first decision. And this is where you see that principle in action, with something called the foot in the door technique. You start with a tiny ask, something almost anyone would agree to. Like, do you believe every cat deserves a safe home? Of course they say yes. Well, once you get that first little yes, that person starts to see themselves as someone who helps cats. That makes it so much harder for them to say no to your bigger, real request. Great, would you be willing to donate to help feed them? Now, building on that idea is another powerful concept. Research from Harvard's program on negotiation shows that how you say something is often more important than what you're saying. It's all about the frame you put around your request. That frame can literally change everything.
Oh, this is such a perfect example. You've got to see this. Think about it. Both statements are talking about the exact same salary offer, but framing it as a gain, a $20,000 increase, that feels like a win. Framing it as a loss, a $30,000 decrease from what you wanted, that feels like a total disappointment. The lesson here is huge. Always try to frame your requests around what the other person stands to gain.
All right, we've got the mindset down. We've got the science. Now for the fun part. Let's put it all together into a simple, practical formula you can use for any request, whether it's in an email, a meeting, or just a quick chat. Think of this 4-step formula, adapted from communication coach Anna Marie from Speak Confident English, as your new secret weapon. It takes your ask from some vague hope into a clear, compelling, and super actionable proposal. It basically gives the other person everything they need to say yes. Okay, let's put this into practice and see how it feels. Notice how each part just builds on the last one. The request is direct, the context adds a bit of urgency, and step 3, that's the magic ingredient. You're not just asking for help, you're telling them why their help specifically is so valuable. Who doesn't love to hear that? And then, the final action step makes it so easy for them to agree. There's no guesswork, just a clear path forward. Okay, for our last point, I want to zoom out a little bit, because the art of asking is about so much more than just getting things. When you do it right, it's actually one of the best ways to build real, solid relationships. Amanda Palmer puts it so well here. Asking isn't a sign that you're weak, it's an invitation. You're basically saying, hey, I trust you, I value what you know, and I believe we can do more together than we can apart. It turns what could be a simple transaction into a real moment of human connection. So here's the big takeaway, the thing I really want you to remember from all this.
Every single time you make a thoughtful, well-crafted request, you are not taking something from someone. You are actively building a bridge. You're strengthening a bond by showing a little vulnerability and a lot of respect. And that's what builds trust and collaboration for the long haul.
So I'm going to leave you with this one last question. Remember that thing I asked you about right at the beginning? The one you were afraid to ask for? Well, now that you're armed with a new mindset, a few psychological tools, and a practical formula, what's really stopping you? Go out there and start asking. You might be shocked at how many people are just waiting for the chance to say yes.